Hi guys, welcome in the series of Docker, and today is the first video of the Docker. First episode or first lesson we're going to learn what is the Docker, then why we need a Docker, and how to install the Docker on macOS. Let's start it with the things what we need to discuss. So what is a Docker? Docker is basically the concept of containers. Containers, it's a very layman term. If you check the containers used to carry the things from one place to the another place, and containers have multiple things in it. So the container truck that maybe you guys have been seen, the Docker is nothing but used to carry the multiple containers, and each container have a different things. Just correlate these things in the software terms. The Docker is the company that they have introduced the Docker Hub. What is the Docker Hub that we're going to check in the next slide. But prior to that, let me explain these things to you. Let's say one container have a JDK, Spring Boot, then SonarQube and other libraries, and we put this container here. Another that we have the second container that contains the front end libraries and all the HTML and CSS, all these things. So this is the Docker, and these are the containers that. Okay, so the first container is saying that I am having JDK 8. It's really specific. It's saying that I am having JDK 8, I am having Spring Boot 2.0, like this. So its version are specified in this container. What this container is going to contain, it's very specified. Now put this container on the Docker Hub, and it's Docker responsibility to get build, ship, and deploy this application without the changing contents. What is mean the contents? Contents means the things which is inside the container, that we said that it's maybe the JDK 8, Spring Boot 2.0 and all these things. So each this application is treated as an image. Okay, and this image will be the same for your developer, for your QA. Now we will see why we need a Docker, what is the need of that, why we should use that. When I used to write the code in my first organization, where always my QA is to say that this code is not working on my machine, and I used to say that it's working on my machine, and my QA is to say that we are not going to deliver this machine to the client. So why this was to happen? Why the code was not working on the QA's machine and why we work on my machine? So the most problem that we face, that I mean there is maybe the mismatch of the versions that we are using. Maybe I am using the JDK 8 and my QA was working on JDK 7, like this, or maybe the Spring Boot version was the mismatching. So Docker is to take care all these things. So Docker is to get the exact configuration of application, matching the version of software, matching the version of jars, get the same configuration from your developer to QA. Yeah, because this developer is going to build this application, and what configuration want to use, that it's always depend on the developer. So it's the responsibility of developer to give the same code to the QA, and how Docker is involved in between. We're going to check all this detail. So get the same code from low environment to the high environment, then it's the main factor that Docker has resolved, that it's resolved the problem of infrastructure and configuration. And how it's trying to resolve this problem. So Docker have a functionality that it is used to keep your images on a centralized place. It's a centralized repository, you can say, and that the centralized repository used to give the same copy of code to everyone. So it's the term which are the similar to our GitHub repository. In GitHub repository, we used to commit your code, and the same code get your colleague when it's trying to fetch the code from the GitHub repository. Yeah, it's the same concept that Docker have used. You just need to pull your image on a Docker Hub. So Docker Hub is a centralized repository. What is the Docker Hub, that we're going to discuss in the next, and other colleagues used to pull the image from there. So it's a pull and push mechanism that they are using. Okay. Then the next thing is that the Docker workflow. I mean, how the Docker workflow is to work. So if you check here, it's a developer is to write the code. In the code that they have a Docker files. What is the Docker file that we're going to see in the next video? And from this Docker file they used to create the image, and this image is going to be inside a container. This is the whole square, you can say it's container things. Then this image is going to be pushed on Docker Hub. This is the Docker Hub, and this Docker Hub have a responsibility to give the same copy to every environment. Not only every environment, for every person too. It's the same thing. So in the testing, we have this version V1. In UAT also we have version V1, and production also we have version V1. And this version V1 have a same configuration. I mean same JDK that we have. Everyone have a Java 8. Then everyone have a Spring 2.0 like this. Then next is, what is the Docker Hub? So Docker Hub is, I mean, it's a hosted repository. It's a hosted repository service for finding and sharing the container images. So it's responsibility of your developer that push the image into the Docker Hub, then QA get the same thing from the Docker Hub. So it's basically depends on your push and pull container images. And if you check here, the team which is using the Docker Hub, they are really happy. So because the QA and developers have the same version, and the QA did the very well testing, and they are in a production. So before installation of Docker on Mac OS, let's understand the major difference of the virtual machine and container, and why virtual machines are nowadays getting rid of, and why containers are there. Okay, so if you check this diagram, and if you check this, I mean the comparison, you can easily find, virtual machines are used to run on hypervisor, and hypervisor on the physical server or maybe your laptop. So this VMs is nothing the virtual machine, and virtual machine is another replica of operating system. So if you install the three virtual machine on a single laptop, then you may face the problem of your memory and all other issues. So you need very fast and robust machine there. So the containers have to solve this problem. Check the container here. Containers are used to run on a Docker engine, and this single Docker engine is to run on the operating system. It's the host operating system that you have. So if you check here, the performance of the container are really fast. So the container images may be typically in the 10 MB in size, whereas the single virtual machine may be the 10 GB in a size. It's like the comparison. So it's better in the future you can shift over the containers rather than the virtual machines. Now it's installation time. So we're going to install Docker on macOS. So let's get started. It's pretty simple. You just need to do few clicks and your Docker will be get installed. Open your browser and search for docker.com. Once you open the docker.com, you are able to see here get started button. Just click on get started. Okay, just scroll below. You can check here, it's a Docker desktop is mentioned here. Okay, so we need this Docker desktop. So click on download for Mac. Okay, if we check here, there is a down below, there is an option for Windows also and Linux also. So just if you are using the Windows and Linux, just use of them. So in my case, I'm downloading for the Mac. Okay, so if you check here, there is a below docker.dmg has been started downloading. If you check here, download is completed. Let's open this. Okay, now move this Docker setup inside our application so we can start the installing it. Okay, so it's copied into the applications. So let's double click. It's verifying the Dockers. Let's close other windows. Okay, so it's asking for, are you sure want to open it? So just click on open. Okay, So meanwhile, if you check here, the Docker desktop is starting here, and it's a right side of your machine window. So Docker desktop is starting. It's saying so it's not started yet, but it's saying it's starting. Yeah, good. So right now the status has been changed. The Docker desktop is running. So if you check here, Docker desktop is running, and meanwhile I got the pop-up that getting started with Docker with few easy steps. Yeah, open our terminal here. Okay, so now our Docker is running. So let's check what the Docker version has been installed. So this is the first command, guys. This is the Docker version is the first command that we need to run. Okay, so if you run the Docker version, then you can able to see here what is the cloud Docker engine, what is the server Docker engine, and the version of them. Okay, so just if you want to go into details, just check on that. The next command that we have the Docker info. Okay, so it will give all the information that Docker have, which are the container, how many are running, how many are staff, which are the images that is currently running, and all the details. Okay, so this is the overall for this video, guys, and this is the only for this tutorial or episode. The next tutorial that we have how to run the application, the simple application inside Docker, and how to create the image of that application and how to push that image on the Docker Hub. And what is the Docker Hub that I already have explained you guys. So that's it. See you in the next video. Thank you.